Right, you're trying to embarrass me, I see. Wow. You know, I didn't really want to write a speech because I figured it'd take 15 minutes to thank everybody responsible for getting me here to this moment. But I want to look at you. I want to see my family. 2 beautiful sisters out of 7. So I was raised by women. They have to be up front at everything that happens. Nephew, thank you. I have teachers in this room, including a middle school teacher who still shapes and mentors me, along with his real strength, his wife, the Atkins, also in the front row. My fraternity brothers are here, holding down their end of the room, Blue Phi. I know Governor School for the Arts is very present because I see former directors and students all over the place. And I heard a small rumor that my high school, the Admirals, might be in the place. And nothing can happen that deals with poetry without Afro-Latin poets being present. So it's good to see all the old and the new, UK dignitaries, Grundy, Mo Better Buzz Burnham, coaches at Danville High School who didn't coach me, but are doing such wonderful things to carry on that tradition. I mean, there's so many people I want to thank, friends, family, golf buddies even. Yes, thanks to her leader, you know that I'm a victim already. But what I want to do is just talk briefly about how do you get here, started at such a humble place as Danville, Kentucky. I grew up in a housing project, and I didn't dream about being a poet laureate. I don't know that I dreamed about anything that specific, but I did have dreams, thanks to books. I really believed I could be an astronaut. You know, I thought about being a doctor or a lawyer or something important. But my real dream, which I keep saying out loud, and I'm going to keep saying until it happens one day, my real dream was to grow up and get a chance to drive the bookmobile. And I know some of you laugh at that, but when I was a kid, the bookmobile in my neighborhood was more important than the ice cream truck, right? When that big blue bus rolled into our neighborhood, they knew I'd be the first one up the steps. And they'd have to enforce the whatever book limit rule there was on me every time because I'm trying to get out with all I can carry. You know, that was my experience as a kid. Until I was old enough to walk up to the downtown Boyle County Public Library by myself, where I spent long summers there, not just because they had air conditioning, and we didn't, but because there was so much knowledge there. I remember the Kentucky room that gave me so much pride to go through and read about Daniel Boone and to know about these wonderful stories that are part of being a Kentuckian. And those things continue to be part of me, and I think they drive part of my artist activism. When I think about what I write about subject-wise, I'm really married to family, social justice, identity, and place. But not just because I was born with that as an interest, but because when I leave the state, people challenge what's here and who's here. You know, that word Appalachia came out of not understanding why people could look at Kentucky and say out loud, do black people live there? But I understood that watching mass media, watching television, watching movies, that left us out of the equation, how you could reach that false assumption. And part of my mission that I've accepted is to make sure that I challenge those myths and those caricatures, to say that Kentucky looks like this. I mean, look around this room. This is a beautiful, diverse, in every sense of the word, diverse audience. And give yourselves a hand. This is what Kentucky looks like. So the cameras need to face out, you know, not at the podium. They need to turn around and get that picture. And I'm very proud of that. And part of what I try to do in the world is, in addition to teaching, and teaching because I had great teachers. And I've figured out of how important that is. You know, when I was 15 or in high school, I wasn't thinking about teaching. You know, I was thinking more selfishly than that. And it's only under the mentorship and nurturing of wonderful individuals like Gurney Norman, who saw me wandering around campus forever ago as a journalism major and kind of lured me into his fiction class and changed my life forever. You know, and even then, he taught me about nurturing because he wasn't just my teacher back in the early 80s. We won't date each other. You know, but almost 20 years later, we ran into each other again. He asked me about my success as a writer, or at that time, lack of success as a writer, and my own frustration. And he asked to see what I was writing. He asked me specifically how many poems had I written. I had no idea. And I had no idea that they were any good. We started that exchange in the original Tally Ho, or the second version of Tally Ho, which is now in his third version. And out of that conversation, he and his wife, Naoka Hawkins, made a decision to take a risk on a young, unknown poet. And they created Afrolacha, the book, which is, and I think is 9th printing. And 13 years later, people are still asking for that book. And it's our book, you know, and I recognize that, you know, what happens when you can see something bigger than yourself. And it's not about you as the individual artist, it's what you can do in collaboration with other artists and designers and editors. That book is beautiful because we made it together. And I'm really proud of that. And it wasn't until I was in the back room with the other poet laureates that I looked over the table that I realized how big a deal this is. I mean, you have to understand, as a writer, these are my heroes. This is like wanting to be part of Marvel Comics, Mitch Douglas, and walking in the room and you see all the X-Men sitting there. I'm not sure what special powers each of you have, but I know you have something special happening because you're that important to all of us. So I thank you individually and collectively for paving the way for a young writer. I heard I was the youngest ever. At 53, that makes me laugh. You know, and I blame it and credit that good water in Kentucky. But I also want to say something about the legacy of Kentucky literacy. You guys know the names of Harriet Arnault and Jesse Stewart and Robert Penn Warren, James Steele, Barbara Kingsolver, Wendell Berry, Bobby Ann Mason, George L. Lyons, Silas House, Maurice Manning, Ann Shelby, Ed McClanahan. You know those names. But I wanted to make sure I took this opportunity to say some other names that I think should be added to that list. Names like William Wells Brown, the first African-American novelist in America, a Kentuckian. Effie Waller-Smith, a poet from Eastern Kentucky, a black woman writing during the Harlem Renaissance era, along with Langston Hughes and those other great writers. George Wolfe from Frankfort, a playwright who's also very talented and nationally known. When you think about music, I just think of lyrics as another form of poetry. So you have to include Marvin Gaye and Donnie and Shiesty Christ. Academicians like the late Blaine Hudson and Gerald Smith and Houston Baker also belong on that litany of names. Journalists like Merlene Davis, Michael Jones, and Larry Muhammad. First-tier writers like Bell Hooks, Gail Jones, Crystal Wilkinson, and Marie Bradby, all of those names and voices together are part of that pantheon of great Kentucky writers. And even if you don't know those names, please join me in giving all those names a round of applause. But you also know, if those of you who know me know that I'm a teacher first. And as important as it is to acknowledge, you know, all the great legacies that exist, I'm really most interested in the next generation of photographers and filmmakers and young writers like Bianca Spriggs and Tanya James and the amazing Mitchell L. Douglas, who sat in the back of the room, and Jeremy Payton and Ricardo Nazari Colon and Martha Miranda, Joey Priest, Dorian Harrison, Graham Shelby. Those names you don't know yet, but you will. one of those names will be up here one day, joining us in this long line of honorees. I want to close by just telling you a brief story about how I really got here. And these ladies would vouch for this. I'm not an accident. I am almost what my mother wished for. You know, I happened to grow up in a house believing that creativity was something everybody did. You know, that's how we solve problems. You know, in our house, we thought we had something new every day because of what Mama could do with potatoes. But it was still potatoes every day, but we didn't know that because she was that creative. Growing up in her house and living under her high standards and demands and fear of disappointment, I tried to get here to do something like this, and I want to take a moment to let her know that I'm still working on it. I know she's up there. And Danville High School, thank you for skipping class today just to listen to some great poets, which you're about to hear, and for supporting one of Danville's proudest admirals. God bless you.